fed from your family to let you know what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. It seems like society in general has become more permissive, and we don't hold the child to the standards that we should, and we don't hold the parents to the standards that we should. We make excuses. We do all sorts of things to alleviate that responsibility instead of placing that responsibility on the people that it needs to go to. In my job, in the time I was an officer and now as a magistrate, a large percentage of people who come into my office, first thing they do is start making excuses. It wasn't my fault because, and you can list a number of excuses. But the bottom line is, you're the parent, and you have responsibilities to help raise your child, direct them to where, parenting's hard enough as it is, and being a child is hard enough as it is. But without direction, you certainly have a less chance of growing up to be a successful adult. But with direction, hopefully, your parents will guide you, get you into the right schools, the right organizations, the right friends. Again, none of these are guarantees, but parents have a responsibility to do what they can. And as you get into that, the more we do as parents, the better we can hope that our child will learn what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Hopefully we can direct them away from the negative and direct them to the positive.
Yesterday I received a notice to investigate where a mother is smoking marijuana with her 10-year-old son. The reason why she smokes the marijuana with her 10 or has her son smoke with her is because she doesn't want him going out and experiencing this with strangers. Never heard that before, but not involving marijuana and drugs, but certainly heard this with alcohol. And a lot of very intelligent people kind of are guilty of the same thing. They want to have they'll allow their children to drink underage at home where they can control it. When in fact they're promoting not only the breaking of the law, but also it's well established that the earlier someone starts drinking, the more apt they are to become an alcoholic. But I will say that aside from providing a strong family structure that will give support to children and give them the courage, the self-assurance that they can turn down drinking at an early age or at an underage, I still think peer pressure is one of the strongest influences on youth, that they want to belong, and in order to belong they need to start smoking, they need to have beer. I hated beer, I still hate beer, but as an underage drinker I had to drink beer because I had to belong. I felt I had to belong, and that beer can was a crutch. Striking out with the fairer sex there, I needed to find out, feel my way, so to speak, and I needed a crutch, and that beer can was a crutch. Just remember that feeling. So, that's why I think underage drinking is so prevalent.
Causes of underage drinking. I hate to be the third or fourth person to say parenting, but every time I have contact with a teenager who's a knucklehead, as soon as I get home, I see why he becomes a parent. I was a young person once, and I drank. I did things I shouldn't. But the number one reason that I never crossed any line that would have put me in jail or adversely affected the rest of my life, it's very simple. I was afraid of my parents, I was afraid of my teachers, I was afraid of my coaches, and I was afraid of the police, because there were consequences for those people. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Something that annoys me more than anything else is everyone in here is a little older, and we all like to wax nostalgic about my dad would have kicked my butt for that. My mother wouldn't have tolerated that. Well, why is all that Why is all that in the past? Why? Our parents wouldn't have tolerated that, but we do now. Everything's been dumbed down to where we tolerate and make excuses for instead of hold accountable. And every time I hear a parent say, "Yeah, look what my teenager did, man. My dad would have kicked my butt for that." Well, I'm unaware of any law that says we can't discipline teenagers. We can't hold teenagers accountable. We can't expect of teenagers. We can't have rules for teenagers. You know, there's simply nothing wrong with holding people accountable. When I coach little kids in athletics, I can get them to do things at as complicated a level as high school kids only because I tell them this is what you're supposed to do. People will do what you hold them accountable for. And I don't see parents holding kids accountable to even 1/3 the level of what kids were held accountable for when I was a kid. And I made it through those years because I had in the back of my head, if you do this, this is what happens. And it's that simple. And I don't think it needs to be any more complicated. I see exactly why teenagers conduct themselves the way they do. Because there's just been a slow creep away from feeling held accountable and feeling any fear or shame. I mean, when I was a teenager, there was some shame involved with being expelled from school. There was some shame involved with going to jail. Now in certain circles, jails and families, jails are rite of passage. Jail gives you street cred. There was shame in going to jail when I was young. And it's just a slow creep away from having standards and holding people accountable. My opinion.
Folks, the next question is, what are the laws as they pertain to underage drinking for both youth and adults? The laws as they pertain to underage drinking. Would you like to start?
Well, of course, I don't have my glasses. The legal age for drinking is 21. Anything below that, a person is considered a minor for purposes of alcohol consumption. And it has not been a black and white picture. It's been evolving. Like recently, they just reduced the blood alcohol content to determine a drunk driver when a person is under 21 to 0.02. Where it was 0.10, then they reduced that to 0.08 at the same time, reducing underage drunk driving to 0.02, essentially zero tolerance. Well, finally somebody made sense in Pennsylvania. The penalties, it's a summary offense. You have summary misdemeanors and then felonies. It's a summary offense, a citation for being an underage drinker, or transporting alcohol, or consuming it, or purchasing it, or possessing it. Okay, and it doesn't matter that you were outside of, say, Waynesburg Borough, outside of my jurisdiction. If you consume beer out at the Triangle and drove into town, and you're under the influence, that's underage drinking. So there's been some flexibility there, but well, I guess I should continue with some of the laws here. Let's see, the purchase of alcohol is very expensive. I mean, purchasing for minors, buying for. It's whatever it is. Okay, it's very expensive. $1,000 fine. It's significant. And if you run a speakeasy, in other words, you're charging at the door, like may happen up here. You have an underage drinking party, and you're found out. The fines are significant. It's per ounce of alcohol that the police may find in their investigation, whether it's consumed or not. So if you have a keg of beer, how many ounces are in a keg of beer? That's like a $2 fine, I think, for each ounce. That becomes extremely uncomfortable for somebody. And I should really